With millions of employees working remotely, security and IT teams have been seeking out our expertise in IBM iSecurity. Last week, we talked about cyber attacks and IBM I and gave you 5 tips to secure a system by yourself. Nice to see some of you guys from last week's live talk session. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tion Trebelsi, and for the last 10 years, I've been the head of Raz-Lee sales engineer and professional services team. I would like to thank you for joining today's session. While working from the office, you're normally able to view, update, and maybe even download certain files to your PC. While working remotely, this opens a door to data violation. Let me tell you this, IFS is not our biggest risk. We have so many options that requires very little knowledge, not more than a couple of minutes, and we can even bypass the security policy in your application so that your application would specify precisely who is allowed to view the specific content of a file. Now, I can use a simple command to create a save file and store the file behind my application into it. In other words, I'm bypassing the system security when I'm using this easy peasy command to FTP the system. So I'm going to FTP the system using a weak user, and I'm logged in. I'm going to move to binary, and I'm going to ask for the file I just saved in my save file. So it's going to be a file prepared on the IBM I, and now I have the ability to bypass the application security using this easy option. How simple is that? Now I can extract a file on my other system which carries no application security. I can use any different other methods to bypass this security. But this is not all. Now we're talking about an employee that is working remotely from home, and maybe he would allow himself to do things he was always eager to do. He was always under the quest to know what is the other salesperson making, how many sales he's making, what are the prices he's getting perhaps. Different alternatives can allow you now accessing this content, which was normally secured by the application. So it's true, user privileges and the technical team, they both can make errors on your system, but we're after this one individual behind the keyboard. We want to find those requests that are eager to get the information we so desperately want to secure and save from their eyes. Not only from their eyes, but also from their keyboard and maybe program. They can take a file where we allow them to view the content of the file, and now simply by using, I don't know, let's take Excel, connect an ODBC to the same file behind this application display normally he's using, and update the content. So he's bypassing your security rules where you invest so many hours and probably budget to create it. And it's so easy, like we said. Now, it's still very common to hear the word that the IBM I is secured. I don't need security because it comes with its own security. It's true. It comes with the menu and programs using those connections as it used to be, but TCP/IP was added. The environment has changed and new risk appeared. All those network PCs or ODBC connections like we mentioned, FTP like we just did in today's demo, easy peasy. You open a command prompt, you FTP the system, you're using the user, no track, no trace. Even the internet in some cases, in some sites, is able to go and connect your system, and you're able to connect to the internet directly from it. So these are all commonly used and well-known protocols or tunnels or ways to go in and out from your system without leaving a trace. So we don't want to be in this situation where an individual or a program or a hacker can go into our system, Yes, it's true. There is a network security firewall that normally should be securing our system from those hackers to go into our system. But like we said, these are not normal days, and this is definitely the time to consider a next level of security. So today we're going to give you some tips on how to secure your system by yourself, relatively, I would say, in functions that are friendly. Let's see how it goes. So the first tip for today in network security is going to be, please refer to the work function usage command that comes from the system. This command allows you to control function usage to and the system. Like, for example, in our example today, in our demo, we used the command from to-ftp the system. This command would allow you to specify which users are allowed to use FTP. As a result, if my user profile is not listed in the authorized list, he would be physically blocked from FTPing. So if I would now use the work function usage command for FTP, obviously allows other options, I would then create the list of authorized users, and my scenario in the today example would have been rejected the request. Second tip, run a system lockdown. What's a system lockdown? You remember all these users you created in the past here and there, and we call those users that do not connect to the system, and they are actually dormant users, right? These are users that sometimes come with admin rights or special authorities. Please refer to these users. Disable any dormant user in your system, especially those that exist in the system that comes with special authorities, with all object authority, and those with admin profile in their rights. Additionally, if you can lower down the number of user profiles considered security administrators to a number that allows you to manage the system properly, but reduce the risk too low as possible. Third tip for today, consider using the native object security. If you remember in the previous slide, we had that one layer of security just before the IBM that appeared on the lower right side of the screen where it says native object security. So if we would then jump to the native object security again, this one is not easy peasy, but like in any other platform, a file that is created in the system allows you to edit its authority using the native object security. So this would be our sale file for the demo purpose, and the public, they are all allowed to use this file. I can easily maneuver this one and make it to be exclude. If you press the F11, you also get specific object rights for the object. Now, this cannot be bypassed. So we just excluded all, and I'm going to allow this one different user to be able to read the content of the file. I would go to a different session. I would log in with this user profile, create a new save file. Like we said, I'm going to create a save file, and I will try to use this one save file and insert it into the save file. You would see what happened. I would use the command save object. For the sake of this demo, I would use F4 and save under this library to be stored in a save file named demo1 in this library. See what happens now. There is no way to bypass it. The file is not stored due to the fact that this user that I'm currently logged in with is only allowed to view the file content. He cannot do anything that resides in managed or beyond that. So these three tips by itself would allow you to mitigate the risk of a system breach, but will not provide you any activity log like you mentioned. There is no trace. You cannot tell what is the name of the intruder, who is the user profile that just did this transaction, or the program name, what is the file that he was downloading or trying to reach, when, at what time, was it during normal working hours, was it outside of working hours, where, what IP he was coming from, is it within this country at all, and how. For that, you will need to consider developing your own security software. So that would be the fourth tip. Create your own security program. So we said that the system is not securing those new risks appeared due to the TCP/IP opening. But on the other hand, it is enabled. So the operating system provides us with something that is called exit point or servers, very familiar in other platforms under the name API. So you can use your own developer skills, and you do need them to be very skilled in order to create such a program. It's approximately 45 in number, different exit points that each come with its own layout that you would need to create security for. And the security would first give you the knowledge. You would have a trace, as we explained. The second feature that you can use under this developing capabilities that you have is to physically block any unauthorized activity to access your system. Now, with that being said, the fourth tip is definitely something that requires developing skills on the high level. It requires a lot of knowledge and understanding of the operating system layout, the way it's designed, and the system restrictions that comes here and there with different exit points, such as FTP, SQL, TFTP, and even sign-on. So for that, I would urge you to even consider implement a network security software from any one of those available in the market. We do also in Raz-Lee have an iSecurity firewall to answer the need of network security. And as you can see in this slide, now this illustrates perfectly how the native IBM iSecurity provide you with a layer of security, but would not provide you with any additional capabilities towards those connections like we just did in FTP and those network PCs that are allowed to access your system, internet and ODBC. All these would not be protected, they'll not be traced, and now using this functionality of firewall, we can allow you to do so. I can tell you that firewall requires no programming skills whatsoever, and to be honest, it's even easy to manage for non-IBM personnel. It also comes with one great PC tool, which is a business intelligence that would allow you to activate the software, activate the firewall, let it learn the activity that takes place on your system, and display it for you under the business intelligence capability. With this being activated and displayed, you would surprise what the response we get from customers and sites where we start to implement this procedure. Some would say, I would not expect this user to connect to my system using SQL, or I would never imagine that this user is allowed to use STR/SQL from within the system. Yeah, imagine that. The firewall can also provide you the log and secure STR/SQL activities from within the command line, from within the system itself. So I would not even try to imagine what would happen if someone would use the functionalities under the command prompt we just projected and decide to key in a remote command, which is also a function that you can use, and maybe power down the sys, and he would not even be nice enough to set the IPL parameter to be yes, meaning the system would shut down itself, not like it's in a reboot that without a restart, it would expect you to activate it. So if you have the ability to activate it remotely, that's great. But if not, it means someone would physically need to go on-prem to push the button and switch the system on. So obviously, with iSecurity Firewall, remote command is also secured. No one not listed as specifically allowed to use the command power down sys remotely won't be able to do so. It also allows you to manage all the servers we mentioned, all the exit points, including robust logs and reports that are built in the software. Just out of the box, you can run them and understand the transaction, who's been using the files using FTP, and in what way he's uploading files, downloading files, what exactly is he doing. You can even see the SQL, the statements that comes through SQL, and even decide on a verb level which user is allowed to do what, meaning this user can do selects and he cannot do updates, so to speak. You can create your own rules based on true activity versus what you had in mind. You remember this example with the business intelligence? This piece is so important. When you come and you say, okay, this is what I'm expecting to happen, I'm going to create the rules as what I had in my imagination, as what I had in my layout. This is the way my workflow is expected. But now when you have the business intelligence and you're creating the rules based on your true activity, there are nothing that falls between the cracks. So you're creating best fit rules and precisely according to your needs. So if in the business intelligence we figured out that 10 out of the 45 exit points or servers had no activity whatsoever, we're going to switch those off. We're going to lock them down exactly like we did with those dormant users just laying out there in your system. So you can create those rules using wizards. You can create those rules menu driven, whether it's going to be from a 5250 display or from a web GUI that would allow you to manage the iSecurity firewall. It all comes there. Also, just recently we added one great feature, to my opinion, that allows us to create a rule based on past log events. What this does give you, it would give you the ability to create a modification or modify an existing rule and then cross-reference with the log record you just wanted to modify. It would allow you to determine that the modification you just did on your rule is true. You didn't not created any glitch like we saw in the previous slide to begin with, that the technical team caused errors in your system. So we definitely do not want to be the software that is there to secure your system, but end of the day blocks authorized personnel and authorized programs to go into our system. This is so important. So at this point, like we said, this is going to be a quick tips session. We definitely thank you for joining today's session. Looking forward to seeing you next week, same time, same day. We're going to unmute now in the meeting. Unmute all. If you have any questions, that would be the time. Please feel free to raise your questions. Make sure that when you're asking a question, the line is open so that we respect one and the other. I would also ask you to stay safe in this situation as much as possible. Thank you. The stage is yours for questions. Can we, okay, here is a question coming, someone decided to send it via the chat. Can we use native object security within Firewall? So the native object security is a system operating feature. This comes embedded within your operating system layer. What iSecurity Firewall allow you, it would allow you to create a more specific rule, a more restrictive rule. We would not bypass your rules in native object security, but we can say, for instance, this user, the design with the T, that is normally allowed to access this file, he would only be able to access this file during working hours. Or let's suppose he would only be allowed to access this file via SQL, and he would not be able to use FTP. This is the layer of native security in iSecurity Firewall. Thank you for this question. It's a great question. Okay, is there a GUI that to control iSecurity Firewall? Like mentioned, yes, the answer is yes. There is a GUI, a graphical tool to install on your PC side. So the firewall itself would be installed on the IBM I. It's like the long arm of the operating system. Any transaction that would come through the registry, through the exit point, would now be analyzed if we then to secure it with the firewall. And we also allow you and we enable you the ability to install on your PC or through the web a tool to control the iSecurity firewall. That also includes the business intelligence tool. For obvious reasons, we cannot provide a business intelligence on the native legacy side. So once again, thank you all, and looking forward to see you on next week session, same day, same time. See ya.